3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another Sunday and another Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the home of the best chat on the internet. And, of course, Hot Take Henry. Maybe he'll come out tonight. Maybe he'll drop by. Maybe we'll see him. All right, everyone, we have a fantastic show for you tonight. Of course, we have, first of all, we've got a special treat for you. We've got a couple of we always have a couple of special treats for you. One is we've got a pre-recorded bespoke What's on Your Radar. As well, my good friend, my co-host, the man with the most, Mr. Jim Chaboyko, wants to talk about a new cinematic universe on the scene. And then last but certainly not least, we are going to overanalyze Amazon Prime's The Tomorrow War. The Tomorrow War. Anyway, with that, without much further ado, let me introduce my co-host with the most, the man I hope will be there with me in the Tomorrow War to potentially take a spike so I can get away. I can do my week tour of duty. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jim Chaboyko.
Woo! Christos Rosdaisis! I'm wearing my Ukraine soccer jersey, even though we were curb stomped by the English, but anyway. Little pop of color.
Nice to see. Always good. And I mean, it makes as much sense. Actually, it makes more sense than the first scene of this movie.
Yes. What I said was Merry Christmas, I think, in Ukrainian, but it was the only Ukrainian I know. So I have the name, I just don't have the language.
You know more Ukrainian than I do Icelandic, so I think we're good. All right. Jim, why don't we start off, before we get into what's on your radar and our special, our guest for that, our guest what's on your radar guy, why don't you tell us about the cinematic universe you're talking about?
Yeah, well, there is an online publication called The Athletic. It is a subscription-based one, but it's pretty affordable. I've been subscribing to it. And frankly, not reading as much as I should have as a sports fan. It's very thoughtfully done, very well written. It's not sort of like a 2-page sports section you might find in today's newspapers, but they sort of dive deep into, player bios and a few other things. Anyway, bit of a shout out to them. But a couple of the writers here came up with NHL power rankings, which you do from time to time over the leagues. And that changes from week to week. Who's looking good this week? Who's looking, who took a tumble? Who's looking bad? That sort of thing. What they did a couple of weeks ago was they compared various teams. This is quite clever, I thought, and fun in the NHL. And our friend Dragon Movie Guy might appreciate this as well. To characters in the cinematic universe, and ranked them such, and sort of gave them a bit of a familiar, kind of in the Harry Potter sense, which character most resembles this following team.
Oh, and so it's like one of those Facebook surveys. Which house would you be sorted into? All right, well, I got to ask then, Jim, where did the Winnipeg Jets fall? What's their closest character?
A lot of people, depending, I know this isn't the most popular character in the MCU, but the writer said they have a lot of sharpshooters, ergo, but not a lot of power, and they sometimes fall a little short. Ergo,
I'm seeing
Hawkeye. Exactly. So when I hit that, it kind of I don't mind Hawkeye myself, but I don't think myself.
Nobody minds Hawkeye. No one says, but he may not be the first person you think of when you go, look, the Avengers are here.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a great Saturday Night Live skit a few years ago when Jeremy Renner was hosting, and they did a battle, and in the middle of the battle, Hawkeye starts to leave, and the Hulk or somebody goes, "Where are you going?" He goes, "Well, I brought 12 arrows and they're all out, so I'm going to go home. See you guys.
Peace out.
Sort of a beautiful skit, and it was Reddit Renner commenting on Hawkeye himself too, so it was pretty fun.
Oh, fantastic. Well, listen, folks, of course, this is Jim's never-ending attempt to turn us into a sports podcast. What I will do though is it isn't in the description right now, but I'll make sure that the link to this piece, which is actually quite entertaining, that it is in both the description and in a pinned comment later on. Okay. So we'll get that out of here. Whoops, kind of jumped ahead. In a bit of a rush, apparently. Jim, as I've said, yesterday I reached out because we've been doing this about once a month where we'd have one of our friends in the YouTube film beat come on and give us an idea of what's on their radar. And one of our buddies, Brian, Dragon Movie Guy, DMG, he put out a great video a few days ago. The top 10 movies excited for July, because of course we are in the summer season and everything's coming out, which is kind of awesome. And who knows, Jim, we might be able to partake in some of this stuff.
Exactly.
Anyway, he was kind enough to get together with me yesterday to do a pre-recorded video, the top 5 movies he's excited about. And if it's all right with you, I'm going to put that on now.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. And yes, this is me coming to you from yesterday, Saturday, for a special segment of a special broadcast of What's on Your Radar. A great friend of the show, a fantastic YouTuber, fantastic reviewer, the only trailer reactor I watch now, fantastic guy, fun guy, and been on the show before. You'll recognize him as soon as you see him. Of course, he's from the great state of Nevada, and from the wonderful from that party town, Las Vegas. It's Brian DMG, as I like to call him, Brian, Dragon Movie Guy. Brian, welcome.
What's up, Rob? How are you?
Welcome back, man, for another session of What's on Your Radar.
Happy Canada Day to you, and happy 4th of July to me. And we all celebrate by blowing stuff up.
Yes, we do. And neither of us are in the Los Angeles Police Department going, how did we lose control of that? That's
very true. Yes.
Listen, man, you just put out a video, the top 10 movies you're looking forward to in July. And folks, there'll be a link in the description. And after this broadcast's live, I'll be sure to put it in the pinned comment. I really enjoyed it, but you've been kind enough to come back on our show and put 5 of those on our radar. Shall we start with number 5?
Yes, let us start at number 5. Now that theaters are back open, at least down here. My number 5.
All right, folks, I'm going to
movie for the month of July that I'm really looking forward to.
Goodness.
Is the Fear Street trilogy.
Jim, are you, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Fantastic. As soon as Restream decides it'll take off the, you know what, I'm going to have to, oh my goodness, it really does not want to cooperate.
Oh, Restream.
Oh, Restream. Oh yeah, I am locked up here. Hey, folks that are watching, hang tough. I just need... Oh my goodness, this is not good.
You're all on holidays down there.
Oh wait, I think it's actually doing something. Come on. Come on, Pokey. Get off of there. For the love of you know what. Oh. Are you there, Jim?
Yeah.
Are we there? Let's see what's going on YouTube. Oh my goodness, this is. Oh, all right. I think we're back. We're back in action. Yikes. That was okay. You know what? We're gonna have to ditch that bit of programming because for whatever reason, Restream just felt like, oh, I guess this is when we'll just not do anything. Yeah, is what it is. Anyway, everybody, first of all, let's just have a quick, before we get the rest of the machine show started, let's, might as well welcome the folks who have dropped by. Beaver Does Productions, BD, good to see you here, man.
Woohoo.
Let's put some tunes on for the dude. And then, of course, we have, it looks like we also have Richard and Katie, 2/3 of the Balmoral Street Researcher regulars. Oh,
Woo-hoo.
And they're out camping. Now they're cashing out in their, not necessarily air conditioned, but much cooler home because it is underground. So that's fantastic. Good to see you guys. All right. You know what, Jim? I'll take over the screen again and I'll introduce the film and we'll just get going. If I can figure out another way to bring that up, I will later. All right. Anyway, folks, yes. Where were we? Right. The Tomorrow War. That is the movie we are looking at tonight. Let's get into it. Now, from IMDb, here's the log line. A family man is drafted to fight in a future war where the fate of humanity relies on his ability to confront the past. Oh, dear Lord. Not the worst log line I've read, but certainly not the best either. Okay. This sci-fi war flick, directed by Chris McKay, written by Zach Dean, starring Chris Pratt and Yvonne Strahovski. It also stars J.K. Simmons, Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, Edwin Hodge, Jasmine Mathews, and introduces Ryan Kiera Armstrong. The film itself is 135 minutes. Whoa. I don't think there's much else to say about it right now other than let's get Jim. Let's get Jim back on the screen. Jim, why don't you give us your quick review?
Sure, yeah. Let me just, I wrote down a few thoughts just to keep them straight and to sort of keep me on track. This was my favorite video game that I watched somebody else play all weekend. There's side quests, color-coded challenges, get those blue ampules, watch out for the red smoke, weird obstacles.
We're going through the engine room now.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Also, weird tonal shifts, strange politics. Science is good, right? Right? But international governmental bodies are bad. Can we all agree? And which there was actually a scene when everyone denounced the UN for a brief second. And kind of a strange, spotty special effects. Like some were good and some were not so good. But kind of a like Army of the Dead, bit of a summer gong show, clown fire, sort of a mishmash. But ultimately, I was sort of worried for the first 10 minutes, but ultimately I kind of enjoyed it. Just shutting off my brain. It's like reading a good dime store comic book, like you used to, like Weird War or something like that that you used to get back in the day. It was enjoyable enough. How about you? What did you think of it?
Jim, this is the movie. This is the Elon Musk of movies. it talks fast, and as long as it keeps things going and keeps kind of showing you stuff and promising you more, you never stop long enough to kind of go, wait, does that actually make sense? And I think that's the perfect capture of this flick, Jim. It pulls from a ton of movies. It at least doesn't make the mistake that Woman in the Window did, which actually literally refer to them. But I thought of a ton of great science fiction films that this is referencing. And I also, what really kind of shocked me, and probably one of the biggest stumbling blocks for me, was and we'll get into the details later, but time travel movies have to establish certain strict rules, and they got to make it clear, and they got to answer certain questions. And this one never did, except that I think that was kind of a weird secret strength, because the second it would start to answer questions, you would start to ask more, and it would not benefit from that. Explanations would not be this film's strong point.
Nope.
It had a solid 20 minutes at the start of the second act, which actually kind of gives you, I like to cut film slack, and that 20 minutes was super solid, even with some of the wonkier stuff. But in the end, I think this was fun enough the first time around. That's where I'll stop on the quick review. Jim, do you think it's worth? Is it worth people's time?
I mean, ultimately, there's better stuff to watch. Again, you're just sort of coming
Always
back to that. I'd say you can probably skip it. It was, like I said, it was enjoyable. I watched it. I started it at 12:30 last night. Watched it till 3 a.m, and at no time did I feel sleepy. So, for what it's worth.
Holds your attention.
It kept me engaged. I'll give it this. If you're in the mood for a dumb summer movie, it is worth your time. If you're looking for anything deep, not worth your time.
Yeah. I think this is a Sunday afternoon time killer of a flick. You got nothing better. And like you said, Jim, you want to watch something dumb? It does. For a rather long running time of... good grief. Over 2 hours, like 2 hours and almost 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It does hold your attention, surprisingly enough. Yeah, but I do think, and it was something it was a question I had before it started. By the end of it, I was going, yeah, this deserved to be on a streaming service.
Yeah.
I do not feel like I was robbed. I got to admit, though, if I went to the theater, I'd be like, well, I would have had a different feeling on the subject. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
It's a good point. Good distinction. Yeah.
Listen, we do have a few people in the chat, but I guess first we might want to tell everyone we're about to enter the spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone.
The spoiler zone.
Highway
really should have
spoiler zone. Just do a Kenny Loggins ripoff.
The spoiler zone.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
Now we've got a bit of drama to it.
Bit of jam, yeah.
Bit of jam. BD, Beaver Does Productions, made a couple of comments. I do love this one, Jim. The Tomorrow War is a sci-fi original name. I actually thought it was a book, and I looked for the book, and I couldn't find the book. I have read some future war combat stuff that really get into what time dilation and all the harder sci-fi things, and so I was kind of half expecting this, but that's funny. And the rest, BD, unlike you and I, for BD, it took him 3 pauses to get through it all. Well, it'll be interesting as we get into the meat of it. And of course, I do believe he's going to be doing a review if it isn't already out tonight. I'm sure we'll see it tomorrow.
It's
BD,
amazing.
let us know. Yeah, he's on a 1-year project of doing a movie review a day.
Wow.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'd love to get the link or we will pin the link no matter what. But yeah, BD, tell us when it's coming out. Let's keep going, Jim.
Sure.
The Craft. And I actually queued up, if it doesn't turn into a disaster, like so many of these other things, if it doesn't turn into a disaster, I want to share something that I want to say kind of summarizes at least some of the problems I had with this film. What did I want to get your thoughts. Like, I do have some bouquets as well.
Oh, I have a visitor. My own
look
alien.
at this. An alien.
Untrained.
Maybe
What are
it'll
you
start
doing?
flying somewhere. No, just
Exactly.
moving around. Anyway, what are your thoughts on The Craft?
The Craft, it was kind of super uneven, I thought. Some of those initial special effects, we'll say, let's take video effects. That one where he's sort of descending into the new age, and he's sort of particulating over an apartment block with a swimming pool and falls into the swimming pool. Some of those looked really cheap. A number of people, I tried not to look at too many reviews, but a lot of people were talking about the monster design for one, which I thought, you always run the danger of making them too strong. Music, I didn't really notice it. There were a couple odd moments that I'll bring up later. There was sort of heroic music when they were pumping the aliens full of poison, like this sort of distant heraldic trumpets. And I just thought that was kind of a weird match.
Michael Bay.
Yeah, the
Transformers,
whole thing.
Michael Bay music. Like,
so much slow motion. There was slow motion on top of slow motion in this.
yeah.
The performances were again, you gave. We sort of talked about this online a little bit earlier. I thought Yvonne Strahovski had a great presence on this. In this, Chris Pratt could have been anybody. It was real kind of boilerplate. I think he didn't bring his usual sort of, his Twitter handle's Pratt. Didn't bring that sort of Pratt charm too much. Betty Gilpin, who has she's got a weird resume, and so basically she's the beleaguered wife in this. Whereas, prior to this, she's one of the leads in Glow. I think she's done some theater work.
She did that weird The Game, like a kind of The Game ripoff, a Class thing, Class Hunt or
and
something.
Like, lefties are hunting down poor, right-wing people.
Because it's always a hippie communist with shooting shooting up a theater.
So I don't understand where what direction her agent is pointing her into. A couple things that I wanted to mention is that a lot of good roles for people, POCs or BIPOC, basically. 2 black guys that they didn't immediately kill. The old joke was that you would have an African American.
They made it to the end.
They made it to the end.
Not only didn't even immediately kill, they made it to the end. They were important throughout.
Yes, yeah. And Sam Richardson, who played sort of one of Chris Pratt's or Dan's friends, he was actually another bright light in the cast. I quite enjoyed him. You see him a lot these days. In fact, on the Free Press cover, there's 2 movies reviewed, and he's in both of them on Saturday. So that was kind of interesting. But sort of interesting roles. A lot of the other, the more serious soldiers. There was a number of women of color that were super interesting. I thought they would sort of expound upon them a bit until they wiped them out pretty early. There was a lot of people that died in this where you think, oh, that's a stunt woman. So she's probably not good. She's recognizable, probably won't get any lines and will probably be killed. And I was right about 90% of the time with that one. But and then there's two people that they brought in as sort of like that Marilyn I don't know how to pronounce her last name, played Nora. Rajkub, yeah. She played Nora, and the other guy played Robert Cowan, sort of an heavy-set guy with a baseball hat and with turned backwards, and they were sort of brought in as comedic, almost a little comedic shading, and they were both wiped out in the first attack.
So really, actually, in a moment that almost ended. Okay, and now we're foreshadowing the rest of this movie because it's all going to be really on the nose.
Yeah. So really weird tone. I mean, on one hand, they gave a bunch of people some good roles, and on the other hand, they gave a bunch of people some pretty weird roles. J.K. Simmons is always fun, but aside from that, there's the first 10 minutes I couldn't stand. I didn't believe the party. I didn't buy any of it.
Okay. Well, I'm cutting you off there.
Okay.
Let's get back into the craft for a sec.
Just good. Yeah.
Go ahead. And what I want to do is BD is bringing the heat. Okay, what I want to do is I'm going to put on the screen. I'm going to play a scene early in the movie that kind of, and then I'll talk about it.
Sure.
Folks, you may end up, this may have to get cut out. I will argue with Amazon and Paramount, etc., if they copyright strike it, but it may end up getting cut out, which is why I now have the chat always up. So at least that doesn't get deleted. All right, guys. Let's bring this on. I'll mute us.
I'm gonna eat all of your tuna, Santa.
I had leadership experience. I ran combat missions in Iraq.
Does that translate, though?
Sure comes in handy teaching high school.
Listen, you're a great candidate. The only thing you're missing is private sector experience.
Which we have to say, it's an important part of what we're looking for.
Guys.
That's why we had to make a tough choice. We found someone else. His background and education, he's just a better fit for us.
Sorry, Dan.
Good luck.
Question another guy. You such an idiot.
Okie dokie. There's a number of things and I may actually refer to this scene a couple of times over the course of the evening, but just at the beginning, and this is at the very beginning, what I would suspect the filmmakers thought this is an important character scene, and because there's a change in his life, because apparently he gets conference calls being told he doesn't get the job, where the rest of the world gets a PFO letter, which would have done just as well. You didn't need the phone call. The other thing, though, was, and it even looks like it might be like some weird insert shot, there's bad editing here. Now, is it the editor's fault? Don't know. But he moves over across the street, and you think for a big money movie, a movie that was meant to be in the theater, and it was only COVID that why they got bought and put on a streaming service. This is just some bad cutting, and then the street lights on, and then it's off, and it's a badly made scene. Mm-hmm. And I think this kind of shows some of the problems this film had. That there was some parts where it's like, wait, what? Now, some of it though, and I actually singled out the music for, it's like, well, it's kind of an Independence Day ID4 sort of homage, let's say, of reference to it. So sure, what the hell? Well, the triumphal music and that fits this kind of what I would call a kind of a right-wing sort of, Michael Bay or was it Toby Emmerich who made Independence Day? I think it was.
I believe so, yeah.
I think it was one of those or maybe it was Roland Emmerich. BD will fix it. He'll tell us. Actually, one of our research regulars will tell us. But I think there were craft stuff that didn't make, that like was just kind of slack. And that was one piece that felt slack. And it also felt like an insert. This, and I'll get more into it when we're talking about story, Jim, but there's a part of me thinking, whoa, did they have reshoots? Was this something where, and actually this is the point at which I will maybe hook into story. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this I think kind of illustrates a craft problem that, and even there are some performances where I'm like, wow, they really just, I don't know, be that politician. Okay, I'll be that politician. Roland Emmerich. Thank you, BD. Appreciate that. The politician, the Secretary of Defense, where he takes credit at the last minute, and
Mike
I'm not
Pompeo. You sort of seem vaguely like Mike Pompeo.
Yeah, but it's this weird. But he's like generic politician, right?
Yes, yeah.
They're. And it's, could you have done more with that? Could you have given it to a character actor and given a character actor leeway to at least, like J.K. Simmons got into they gave him leeway to make what I think was a pretty thin part kind of entertaining. Like you said, he's always fun. Yeah. I think there's craft problems that are actually foreshadowing. And for me, this is a foreshadow of worse to come. And, in some ways, worse did come, notwithstanding what I said during the quick review.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Well, even with that, this movie to me, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing, it feels like there was lots of notes going back and forth. Like I sort of, there's a clip. It starts off, it shows you the Paramount or whatever logo, and almost immediately there's a clip of something that happens half an hour later, which is Chris Pratt being jettisoned into, or Chris Pratt's Dan being jettisoned into 2051, which they're going to show you half an hour later. And it's not even all that amazing a shot. Like, it's sort of an interesting sequence, but he's basically falling through the sky. He's particulating into 2051 and falls into and they do that. And I thought to myself, well, do they feel that they need action immediately? Why would they put that up front of everything else? And then it cuts into this party scene, which I didn't buy at all. It's got
with a World Cup game on it, because
at Christmas,
why?
That everyone pauses, and it appears to be two South American teams. I didn't get it. Is it a family dinner or is it a party? And if it's a party, why is it a party? Also, is this a Christmas movie? Anyway, it has interference from the studio written all over it. This movie.
Yeah. Well, why don't we let's move forward then to the story, because I think, and there's plenty to talk about in the theme as well, in the meaning of the piece. But Jim, I at times I felt sometimes I felt it just didn't. It again, back to time travel. It's so important to lay out the rules early, And even if you're explaining further rules later, and I'll use Interstellar as actually, I thought, a pretty good example of trying to explain a very complicated topic, time dilation, especially as affected by gravity, that they would, you'd get like maybe a little refresher later. Well, no, that's not the way it is here because we're so close to, I was okay with that. Because it was consistent to what they had established very early on in the film. Even Back to the Future, another one that a couple of simple rules, but they stuck to it all the way through the movie. This one, it's like, boy, there's a lot of implications for what you're talking about, and you're explaining nothing, and so all of a sudden, like there's that has a lot of real story problems. It kind of, you kind of think, well, it's got to be a time loop. He must have done this before because and we are in the spoiler zone, folks. Yvonne Strahovski, shock of shocks, is the daughter. Not that it should have been a big shocker, the daughter all grown up. And in, again, all these exposition dumps, they never show us anything. They show us no family conflict, no, why he's mad at his dad. He talks about why he's mad at his dad. We don't see why he's mad at his dad. We don't get a replay of what she went through. She just tells us. But there's a part of me kind of going, yeah, didn't your mother say everyone was coming back kind of broken? Why are you mad at a guy who went through hell? And if you've already seen him, why did you call him back for this? Oh, wait a second. None of this makes sense. Why don't you go just kill your grandfather and sleep with your grandmother already? Let's Futurama this and get back to, I want to go home.
No, so we're told that Dan, when Dan meets his daughter in the future, who's Colonel Forrester, because he's Dan Forrester. So Colonel Forrester, Murray, is that what it is? M-U-R-Y?
Murray, yeah, M-U-R-I.
So when he meets her, she says, you disappeared 3 years, basically in 3 years' time from the time we were in the start. You and Mom got separated, then you got a divorce, and then you died on my 16th birthday. I guess she cut herself off. And in a car accident. And that, car accident, could have been explained better too. That's one of those arbitrary things. A lot of times people commit suicide in a car accident. They'll run themselves into a tree or a brick wall or something. So
death by traffic. Suicide by traffic.
Give us some more detail. But there's no sign, like he's the Mr. Family Guy, perhaps a little bit, into his work. Well, he's a high school science teacher, but he's looking, he's a little bit ambitious. He thinks he should, he's obviously looking for a job in the scene that we saw.
Yeah.
Did he disconnect from the family because of this time loop? Because he would have gone into this 7-day war. You're drafted, your tour of duty is 7 days, and then you're sent back, which is also kind of weird. But anyway, is that why he dissociates himself from his family? Because, like his father, he had a wartime experience that he couldn't deal with. That sort of isn't really explained. I don't know if it needs to be.
They kind of like set you up to think that, but they don't show it to you.
No.
Like, why couldn't we, instead of him, here's an option. Why couldn't the movie have started with a young Dan Pratt? Dad, could you show me this? A young Daniel Forrester. Dad, could you show me this? And Mom, Dad's not well right now. And then maybe some fighting. Like, you could have, instead of pissing it away on the stupid Christmas party.
No, I know.
Instead of pissing it away on that, you could have had a nice moment, a moment of conflict and darkness, and kind of maybe him, the character say, promise I'll never treat my kids like that. Cut to nice family moment, hugging his daughter, but we're starting to see some of the signs of anger, like when he was beating up his post office box in the dark there, his mailbox. That, all of a sudden, we're seeing something. Then, cut to the middle. I still don't even think Strahovski, as the older daughter, needed to share this with us. But if she's gonna, can we see it? Mm-hmm. That would have had so much more impact, where it's almost and you could have done a cool match cut or something of her, a little older and looking at her dad, and we see that, but we don't. And it's kind of BD is referred to it already. I do. It's almost they're mushing two stories here together. Mm-hmm. And obviously the family thing won out instead of, because there was also this weird thing about science, and we've got to keep innovating. It's not, folks, it's not the lack of innovation that is melting the polar ice caps. It's a direct result of our innovating.
Innovation.
Yeah. But you had that kind of, because there was something of that in this story, and it looks like they went for this, but they never showed us any of it. Mm-hmm. And also, why is she telling him this? Why isn't she telling them this on her deathbed or something, so that it's the last, maybe it's that magic moment that is why when he goes back this time, he's like, I now know what I need to do. Could we have seen a couple of loops where she's always mad at him, and for whatever reason she decides, you know what, I'm not going to be mad at you, Dad. You need to know before I die what happened and why I've been so pissed off at you. And she dies, and all of a sudden that's the thing. Somebody forgiving someone is the reason why he can go back and be the man he wasn't countless time loops before, or whatever. Live, die, repeat this thing. Again, there are so many other movies that did this so much better.
The Groundhog War.
Well, yeah, exactly. But that was live, die, repeat, right? Groundhog Day, except at war. Even the aliens were kind of a mush of a number of other, aliens that looked kind of like that. And I was thinking of the insects in Starship Troopers, but also the weird alpha and the weird aliens in Live, Die, Repeat, or The Edge of Tomorrow was that film's name,
Somebody else mentioned Quiet Place, looking like the ones from Quiet Place.
Oh,
but
I
couldn't remember them offhand.
No, that's a great.
And always with, either with heroes or villains or monsters, the design of them, they always seem to make them too strong. Like, too... I don't know. They seem to be just a little bit like it wouldn't have taken 3 years to wipe out the Earth. I don't think. It would have been a lot quicker. But I guess they move slowly.
It took them 1,000 years to dig them way out of the ice, apparently, or who knows, right? They didn't even. It wasn't even 1,000. It was just they waited until it melted, and then everything, I guess, turned back on.
So, and this is part of the weirdness about this movie is that at one hand you have two scenes, I believe, two scenes of family members doing a Brooklyn Nine-Nine style back-to-back shooting exercise. You have father and son and father and daughter.
Yeah.
So the family, I wrote, the family that shoots together stays together. And then on the other, so that's kind of a righty kind of thing, right? On the other hand, you actually have a line. Somebody says the line, 1 degree is the difference between ice and water. And so it's like, yes, climate change. Like, not that I'm complaining. Just sort of, they seem to be at odds with each other.
Well, there's maybe not at odds, but it's like, okay, you going to develop that? Or does that actually have anything to do with the main theme of the story? And that's like you said, Jim, it has notes written all over it. It's got a mush of story. It may even, Jim, not even have a mush of story, but also a mush of the studio notes, but maybe even test screenings.
Yeah.
Like there's an insert shot a little after the scene I just showed where he's getting drafted and the ding ding and look at, and then there's a really obvious insert shot where you're like, is that his hand? Like, or did they somebody said, well, I don't know what he was looking at on the phone, like some ding dong in a test screening, and like, oh, better answer that one idiot. And so all of a sudden you get a shot that isn't necessary. You get a shot for the lowest common denominator. And all these little things add up to, by the end of the movie, you're like kind of,
Yeah. And, the other things, I was just thinking now that the character that says that line about the 1 degree difference is
Ahmed!
Hey, woohoo!
Jelly Duck!
Is Sam
Good to see you
Richardson.
here, man.
So he's Charlie, who is an African-American man involved in STEM research. And that's great, don't get me wrong. But it's got sort of studio note written all over it. But, I just suppositioning, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the word.
I mean, they all delivered it okay. Like,
yeah.
I felt bad for Betty Gilpin. She had nothing to do.
Oh, nothing.
Like, so you had, and that's the killers. Like, they had some really great character actors that they could have given more to do, or just save the money. Don't hire that person, or hire them for a different role. Because all of a sudden you got other people where they're like, they don't. And I keep picking on the politician. You know what? It doesn't have the name and therefore the stature to get into it. That it's like, be a politician. I don't want to hear your ideas about this role.
Exactly.
And I've seen that happen on set. And one guy I worked for remembers this. You know what? Actors like to make choices, and so they'll come into an audition and say, I know I'm the doctor in the emergency room, but I'd like to play this high. And the director I was working for as his assistant, just the flunky, his flunky, he says, yeah, sometimes can you just be the doctor? I don't care. Come in and say, hey, this is what's on the chart. And, and I think that politician was that. Meanwhile, Betty Gilpin is doing nothing,
Yeah.
Hire somebody else to be a nice mom and give her something to do,
Wearing shoes inside the house. Can you do that? Maybe that's a Canadian-American thing. I don't know. But
again, the story had problems to a point where it's almost like two climaxes. And then the whole third act, the whole thing of we're going to fly into Russia because that's easy.
Unannounced with matching.
How often do they shoot things down? But this guy's going to get in with his private C-130 that apparently does not need refueling from the continental U.S.
And can carry 7 to 10 matching snowmobiles.
Yeah. But that whole third act feels, and I know it's obviously not tacked on, but it feels tacked on because of all that emotional weight that was given in the second half of the second act with his daughter dying, and it's like, this should be happening later, or this shouldn't be happening at this point. All this emotion shouldn't be it should be hinted at, teased out. The reveal should be happening at the end of the second act of why she's mad at him and why she's having a hard time connecting to him. But also, maybe it's because she obviously knows more. Maybe it's I don't want to tell you this. And I'm going to refer to Interstellar, the better movie, the way that's revealed late, well into the third act, where it's like, the reason I haven't been able to connect with you, Dad, I forgave you a long time ago for the way you behaved. You're a soldier. I've been living this. This sucks. I couldn't connect with you because then I'd have to tell you that I will die no matter what. You have to go back and stop this from happening at all. You know, something like that. That could have had real weight in the third act, and you know, and you don't need as much then in the third. Like, I mean, you can still have your kind of shootout in the Russian Arctic.
Yeah.
Sure. What the hell?
Sure.
It is a Transformers movie. Yeah, exactly.
The jungles of the Dominican Republic to the ice fields of Russia.
That's right. Yeah.
And how about setting off all those explosions to blast the ship out of the crater or whatever? You think no scientist in Irkutsk is going to pick up on that? Like,
well, apparently the Russia of 2048, because I believe that's. Oh no, it's the Russia of 2021.
Oh,
no, it's the
right.
Russia of
Yeah,
2021
yeah, right.
or 2022. It's apparently they have. Yeah, exactly, Jim. It's just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Again, the more, and this is why it would not hold up to a second watch. Or if you enjoyed it in a second time, it may be ironically. Because you're like, that doesn't make any sense. And why the hell are they doing that? How did they get back?
Yeah, all kinds of fun. My favorite was when they watched the aliens run down the wild horses on the beach. That was sweet.
It was a nice moment.
That was a nice moment. And tried to shoot none of them.
Here, let's jump into. And I'm not saying we're done with story, but we've got some comments in the chat that it might be nice to refer to here. I think so, and mostly from Beaver Does, because of course his head is right on this. Let's not get. We got to be careful with this, BD. Otherwise, it'd be like, well, I don't need to see his review. I got all his opinion out on that other guy's show. But he does. He starts with felt like a movie that should have been 2 parts. Now, I'm wondering, do you mean, because that was one thing they don't have. There's a poor A plot, B plot. Or is there even an A plot, B plot? Like, for as long as it is, there's not a meanwhile back at the ranch.
Yeah.
You know, could they have, if they had given another character more to do, the home front even, Betty Gilpin, just to pull a name out of my butt. We had Mr. Richardson, who apparently just hid, but could he have done more? And could they have been cutting back or cutting from the lab to the field or something like... Yeah, well, in a way. Mm-hmm.
Dorian and Charlie, the 2 African-American characters, are sort of, it's implied that they would go off together and get redeployed. That might have been interesting to see them do something and actually truly give them B-plot stuff to do.
Yeah.
That would have been neat. I mean, sure, there were good parts anyway for the 2 actors, but yeah.
Yeah. I think, you know what? BD has chimed in on the way he was looking at it. I think he really does mean like it could have been 2 separate movies, part 1, part 2, or 2 separate shows, part 1 and part 2. And here's an interesting idea. Movie ends after the jump back to the present with a promise to stop them in the present, a la Independence Day 4. Because there was that great emotional ending. And then all of a sudden you come back to the present and it's like, okay, I had to make this work. And then it's all his struggles where he finally has to go make up with his dad to actually go, or he goes, Dad, you got to help me, but I still don't like you, and all their struggles in Russia. And then finally there's that final sacrifice and that worked out or something like that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not a bad idea at all.
You're basically acting, finishing off. You're finishing
Part 2
off
is
the
him
second
over
act
Conan. Finishing off the second act, sorry.
with a passenger ocean liner on fire and crashing into an oil rig. End of first movie. Like, how does that just... That's like a real kind of a money shot. Like, save it for the end of the movie, start a new movie.
This is what kills me about this film and the characters, which is one of the reasons I was like, really? Give it all to Yvonne? Why? Like, all these characters are dumb. They're all dumb. Like, and even the world is stupid because really the volcano guy figures this out. They all, like, all you need is they come back. We said, we think it started in Russia. Oh, okay, good to know. Hey, Russia, let's go there and work it out. They come up with some horseshit excuse that the UN will never be able to figure it out. Like this horrible MAGA anti-government, the UN's the problem. It's like, you don't even know what it does. Oh, you're morons.
Who's going to kill these aliens? A panel?
Exactly.
I should have written the line down.
Do you understand? Yeah,
sort of a record scratch moment. Yeah, exactly.
And it's almost like they misunderstand how this stuff works. Even their math is wrong. Thousands of people a week they're sending, and it's all pointless. And it's like, okay, all right, I had a Jim Chaboyko gold weight moment. I actually, before the show, I'm like, okay, let's say it's 100,000. That's 5.2 million a week. That's 5.2 million a year. If it's 100,000 a week, 2.2 million a year. That is, so you would need 192 years to throw a billion people up there. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. Yeah, no, there's plenty of soldiers to keep sending. I mean, it's something humanity has done forever, is figure out how to just recruit and train and throw into a meat grinder soldiers. Not this, why is the little old lady getting on boots? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
And all the over 40s, I think one of them wore glasses.
I did not catch that play, but yeah.
Yeah.
And even, it's a war movie. Like, I was expecting this, so I was expecting esprit de corps. There's the moment where Raxiub and, if I'm probably mispronouncing that name, and what was the other dude's name?
I think it was Robert Cowan.
Yeah. The one who at the beginning is like, oh, you're a goner. You're going to be a red shirt. Gone right away. But they keep him long enough that you get kind of attached. But then they have this heroic moment where it's like, you've been together for a couple of hours. I'm not buying that. Like, that's a heroic moment. Like Aliens, again, a better movie.
Yeah.
Aliens had those moments where it was the lieutenant and Chavez, where they have a great moment in the near the end. Like, I think we're in third act country now. In the oversized, as all movies have oversized ventilation shafts, but where they hug each other and they hold the detonator, together. And that's like, and that was earned. That was a great earned moment because they had conflict and the LT had effed up and all this stuff. And then by the end of it, they're like, yeah, we'll do the right thing together. That, even now it gets me in the feels.
Yeah.
This wasn't earned. This is like in some ways, some of the laziest storytelling because you have all these moments that aren't earned. Mm-hmm. They're wasting time when they could have been developing these people. Like, that 20 minutes should have went to a calm moment and then more of that stuff as they become, they lose a bunch of people and then they become, and maybe we're only hearing the colonel through the radio and we never hear the name or she avoids it. And that can be, that could be our A plot, B plot. Him doing whatever they have to do, not finding the blue vials right away. Them doing whatever they need to do throughout the entire second act. The B plot is her trying to keep the war together, and I don't know, she's got pressure, saying, I don't know why we'll let you take your father. We've done this 4 times already, this scenario. Something like that. I'm excited to see that movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, not a movie we're going to see, but...
No. Unless we go into the past and work our way into Amazon Studios.
Well, it'd have to be Paramount and Sky Dancing and...
here's your coffee, Mr. Director. Can I give you some notes?
I mean, we wouldn't be sexually harassed by Harvey Weinstein, but perhaps Scott Rudin would throw a photocopier at us.
Wrenching it out of the ground and...
Oh, you... Read up on Mr. Rudin.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating on the photocopier. Like the guy is. Anyway. Like this story, the more you look at it, the weaker it gets. And I hope I'm right here. Everyone agree. I have no problem. Heck, you know what? I only had to cut Space Sweeper slack maybe twice, and it had a bit of a weak villain.
Yeah.
And that was about space garbage, man. So it's not like I'm really hard on these movies, but this one, it's like the more you look at it, the more you're like, the eye rolls get really big.
Yeah.
Like to a point where you might strain an ocular muscle, like just fall out of its orbit.
Yeah. How does it end now? I just, what's the very end shot?
Well, they have a great...
Does he get back home and he hugs his wife?
Yeah, he has, and with the dad in the manly.
Oh yes,
because it's a fair bit of toxic masculinity, the big muscle car, and the hug with the granddaughter, and what the, while the sleazy politician is taking credit for their work, because. The only good people are military people, especially ones suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, exactly. The thing I will give it is that they did dispatch with the Queen, or the I guess you can call it the Queen. They showed the Queen pretty much unequivocally being destroyed. So there's not. I mean, it fell over a cliff, and I thought, oh Christ, is it going to be? It's fall over the cliff and then it's gone. And they're going to look over the cliff. Where'd it go? But white on white, I can't see it. But but they do show it sort of splattering to the rocks and coming apart or whatever.
Yeah, no babies running off.
Yeah, so
the babies will have to come out of the wreck.
Well, and I wonder about that too, because they did blow it up, but the pilots were a different species than the cargo. So was this
Aliens v Predators?
Yeah, was this a prison situation?
Not even a good movie that's being compared.
Yeah, exactly. Let's steal off Herbie Does Paris. I don't know. I just.
First of all, let's welcome Walt Vlad65. How you doing?
Who does classier movies than we do?
Well, certainly this week. Life is too short for movies where you say, never have the screenwriting, just have fun. It's why I am loath to talk about the script, because we don't have that before us. Mm-hmm. I strongly suspect that this thing was greenlit on a great script. It's been done before. The reason why time travel movies keep getting made is because they're interesting. Fighting space invaders, that's just kind of cool. There was a script here at the beginning that got greenlit. Somebody was able to read it all the way through and go, yeah, let's make this. And then it gets passed around and everyone's going to have their stamp on it. And, well, shouldn't we be talking about, global warming? That's a thing, and all of a sudden, it's like a ship. It gets into the ocean all sleek, but then it picks up barnacles and an extra mast because someone says it'll look better that way, and it's carrying too much. It's got too much ballast or not enough, so it's
So what's the elevator pitch, young man? Chris Pratt shoots aliens. Family's good. The UN is bad. Watch out for climate change. Science rules. Sounds good. You got yourself the deal.
Military awesome.
Thanks
right
Mr.
on.
Bezos.
We can get some military gear for nothing or next to nothing. Because they were big. Well, you know what? Let's. I think we've beat up on this. Beat up on the story part enough, and we are talking about the meaning. Obviously the main. I mean, and it was part of their marketing and Twitter in the last couple of weeks. Who would you fight for? It's that. Of course, the assumption is we must fight. Mm-hmm. And here it's about the primacy of the family and how the man has to go and fight for him. Notwithstanding that we saw women combatants, it's about, like, I think it's still about this man defending his family. I'm doing it for the children. Thinking of my family.
And it's about generations too, because it has his father and his relationship with his daughter. So it's sort of it does take a look at the patterns over without putting too much into this. It does look at patterns in a family over time. So that's one aspect of it. I just love the fact that they're doing I forget what they call it on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's like the bullet tornado or something, and it's Charles and Jake, and they go back to back and with their guns. It's sort of a goal of Charles because it looks cool. But he does it with his father, and then he does it with his daughter, and they're both like, doing the big shootout thing and
the final, the last stand. Yeah. Because that's also part of, and that leads to another theme. I do believe is in this film. It's very pro-military.
Oh, yes.
Super pro-military and super of that. Again, another false narrative that the military and the MAGA types love to push, that idea that the military are used and then rejected in civilian life. And it's like, yeah, that's not a thing. Former military leaders, assuming their mental health is, that they're employable, they get good gigs after that. They're not going, American companies love that shit. It's like, ooh, you'll follow orders and you'll get other people to do what you need them to do. Yeah, I'm not buying that. And what seems to be, they're blaming the elected official at the beginning. It doesn't seem like there's any it's all just basically a military. I can't call it a dictatorship, but it's all that's left is the military.
Yeah. 500,000
somehow,
people.
even though they're all going to die in 3 weeks, still have a lot of helicopters.
Yes.
Which
and
kind
gas.
of says where are they being serviced? Because you need like 5 people, like it's just like 5 or 10 hours of servicing for every hour of flight. I'm like, I'm not sure how this is happening.
And who's refining all the gas they're using? And
where is it magically appearing from? But I think there is very much a pro-military tone in this, an anti-government yet pro-military a message. Some of it, not some of it, all of it written in. You don't have that anti-UN screed where it's like, what are you taught? When has the UN ever stopped the United States from doing whatever it felt like?
Yeah.
Ever.
And
the only thing that stopped it is when the country that they want to pressure is it's going to be too much damage to do it. Yeah, even the American military. Well, we're not fucking flying into Russia. We must start a real war, you know.
But is it? I mean,
Fly into Haiti, you bet. We've done that a million times. We can do that again. You know.
in terms of being pro-military, I don't know if it's pro-military higher up or more pro-fighting man kind of. Like it sort of elevates the.
That's the way they all are.
Yeah,
I would argue. They're all about, because you look at Transformers is another great example, and there might be a good general in there somewhere, but it really focuses on the boots on the ground.
Because the process,
Yet it loves the big structure where you can pull in an airstrike from anywhere, which involves a little more than just a couple of guys on the ground with a radio.
So it's really a little bit mixed. Like a lot is made of the scene where Chris Pratt's Dan Forrester gets drafted, and he's not being told anything, and they just said, "Oh, this is you're going to feel a pinch." And so that process, I mean, it's still military, the orders coming from up on high, and he's sort of powerless. And then there's aspects of draft, like a non-voluntary draft.
Well,
and so, that stuff is sort of frowned upon, but it's that.
But that's put on the governments.
Yeah.
That's always put on the governments, right? And that's why the fabric of society is falling apart, which... and I've said it in other reviews even, where I'm like, it's not the way people work, but sure, for the sake of the film. The draft of Ghost Draft. I think let's take a quick second, because Vlad brought up a couple of comments, and I don't want to get lost in it. Vlad says, have we mentioned the same theme from the Tom Cruise version of War of the Worlds? All about the reunion with his son. Whoa. That hasn't come up. Although that is a much better film that had and another one where it's the military is still surviving, everything else is collapsed, and but no, that's a great point. And then of course a smart remark. Some crap talking from the best chat on the internet. Okay, now Rob is living up to the image on his channel homepage. Yes, I am, my friend. This is working class cinema, baby. This is working class cinema analysis. But yeah, coming back to that pro-military, the fighting man, but within a unit with ranks and all that other stuff. And all the fancy gear, and no one's incompetent. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone's fully committed to what they are doing. Is definitely written into this film, just as the general tone of incompetence for governments that they. And the unreliability of the public. Why should we go fight for the future? And like it just some of that
demonstrations.
Yeah, and really kind of whacked ones. But even that, like going back to the story. So honestly, he didn't know. No one has ever talked, even though they get 24 hours to go home to talk about this. He's acting all surprised to what happens to him when he gets called up. Yeah, literally called up, like on his cell phone. That he's like, no one told me this was gonna happen. It's like,
who'd have thunk it?
Really? No one? Seems to be happening a lot. All your high school students knew. The ones who were lecturing about innovation.
Yes.
And the one person who thought of volcanoes in any way. Like,
and the ones that are having the existentialist crisis at the time, but that somehow eludes the adults in the piece. But well, except for Betty Gilpin's character does work as a therapist with people returning home from the war. I guess that's sort of, we were saying that all she is a wife, but I guess that's sort of part of what. A little extra of what she does.
Well, it's part of the caring of a woman on the home front. Again, could have been another B plot.
Yeah.
And also why I never really bought the anger of the future daughter when it's like, you kind of, like it was deeply cooked in that you knew he was not going to come home right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people who did survive did not come home well.
Love
BD
triangle.
says-
That would have cured everything.
It was the only other option for Yvonne Strahovski. It's like, oh, is it going to be a love triangle?
Well, that's I actually wrote that.
And then-
when it turned out that she was the daughter, I said, so not a love interest then.
Ditto.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it was part of my expectations. It was just love triangle ? And then we're in it, and it's like, oh, gonna be the daughter. Okay, I get it. Beaver Does says, very much like Starship Troopers without the satire. Yet we had referred to Starship Troopers, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, this has got a Starship Troopers, but no satirical take, no self-awareness. But I even think Robert Heinlein would see this and go, oh, I would have written a better story than that. A much better story than that. I didn't even know why I said it that way. I know what Starship Troopers is, knew what it was when I was a kid, but I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Like I'm talking about the book, not the film.
Okay.
I enjoyed that book, even though it's like, well, I know what's going on here. This is not what an alternative to democracy. It's is there a fantasy fascism? Walt says, though, he says, yes, I was going to mention Starship Troopers, the movie in which you're never really sure where the satire started. Much, much, much better. Yeah, one partly was also pretty simple, kind of whole story, and maybe it's something, you know what, Jim, that might be maybe something we put on our Does It Hold Up list. Comes from that time, and I think, yeah, I'd love to revisit that if you're open to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's
been a while.
What else? Like, there's that little bit of, hey, global warming's a problem, and it's innovation that will save us, which is, again, why I said it's the Elon Musk of movies. Don't worry, Mars will save us.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
none of this math works out.
We need more worlds.
Tesla. We just need more highways. Dig them underground. More cars, not less. It's just this. We'll innovate our way out of the problem, and it's like, did that work for Texas? Like
we figured out the Earth. Now onto other planets.
Yeah.
All mysteries are solved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So even that, like, and it's only like, is this one little moment, and it's almost like they're stating it almost as a theme, but they never pay it off. Where's the innovation? Like,
yeah,
there wasn't any, it seems. Well, Yvonne Strahovski's character, we're led to believe, single-handedly invented time travel, and at the very last minute is also, solving a genetic disease for space aliens.
Yes, yeah. 60%,
that's a bit of a stretch.
32%. Well, it's like those CSI shows where the guy who's in charge of fingerprints also does blood splatter analysis and footprint recreate. These are all separate disciplines, but and they have the one computer program that you flash something in front of, and it goes and gives you a readout.
They're all done by civilians who walk in, and they may have a uniform, but they're not cops.
Yeah.
Also, coming back to that, and again, one of the themes of all these kinds of movies is its individual genius. Again, fucking Elon Musk of movies. The individual genius will save us. That's what we need. We just need to nurture these individuals, and one will come up with the idea that saves us all. Even the Salk vaccine wasn't all him.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Well, remember a few years ago there was that pushback where, the pushback against It Takes a Village, and the other one was like, I did it all myself. I built my business myself. and
Yeah,
that was sort of the the flip side of that. There's a scene earlier in the movie where Chris Pratt's Dan is sort of indoctrinating Muri, his daughter Muri, and they're sitting on the couch, and Betty Gilpin's character is nodding along in agreement, and
like a good woman
says,
would.
Being the
supportive, a good supportive, nurturing wife, and
nice
that
family
is
moment.
Cooked into this fucking film.
Being the best, you have to be willing to do what no one else will do, he says to his daughter, his 9-year-old daughter on the couch. So that's sort of.
And even that doesn't make any sense in the context of the film. We never see him. We never see any of that.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, she does achieve some form of success in her future life, but it's almost like a church, like one of those aspirational churches, and the like a little speech from a Sunday morning sermon that you wear your 3-piece suit to, like
we see this shit on Facebook every day.
Oh yeah,
some affirmational BS. BD.
Oh yeah.
Looking forward to 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time tomorrow. His review will be up. Looking forward to seeing this. But thanks so much for popping in, BD.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'll be sure to watch it tomorrow.
Walt, just want to quickly comment on Walt's comment here. I'm not going to see this, but why did they insist on making these messy films so freaking long? It's the length that is the mess. This could have been a 100 tops 120 minute film, but all of a sudden you got to shove this in, you got to shove that in, and you got to answer all these constituencies.
There is 9 minutes of closing credits, so and I specifically look. So I think the runtime is given as 138. It's really more like 129, but whatever.
Well,
it's still over 2 hours.
120 minute movie is then only 111, and a tighter movie, right?
What was Raiders? Raiders was 154, I think, wasn't it? Like just under 2 hours. So yeah.
Mwah. Star Wars, 1 hour. 20 minutes.
Well, and here's the thing. I just a quick aside. Did watching all this computer generated stuff, after we watched Raiders last week, did that seemed kind of like Raiders seemed so much more organic to me than watching a bunch of CGI of varying quality, middling quality.
But if the story was there, Jim.
Yeah,
I think we would have been, if the story was there, even with the fascist adjacent messages, the MAGA, let's say, well, MAGA's not, even their messages are a bit of a muddled mess. Again, I enjoyed Transformers, like the first one. I think that is actually a bit of a gem of a film. Especially Shia LaBeouf, his character's parents, the Witwickies, are just, every time they're on the screen, it's just, goddamn, that's comedy gold.
Yeah.
They know the kind of movie they're in, and they commit to it. It doesn't mean that there aren't parts where it's like offensive. I'm not sure how it would fall on the can I recommend it?
Yeah.
But it's a well done film. Tight, makes sense, has a message. Uncomfortable one, but I got to push back on both you guys on the knock of CGI. You know what? Bad effects are bad effects. Mm-hmm. If it's a bad visual effect, it's just bad, period. We've seen bad practical effects. like the worship of practical. You know, it's what is working for the scene. Have have you made the scene work? You know, does the scene work? Is the story there? All that stuff. Then the effect should be good enough to help sell sell the scene, to sell the action, to sell the character, whatever the hell. And we have been watching great visual effects in the form of whether it be computer generated, like what do we say? Oh, Toy Story, too much CGI. Well, no one says that for a reason. Monsters, terrible film, too much CGI. Heck, the film we saw that really took advantage of CGI was recently Love and Monsters on a low budget. Mm-hmm. They sized everything right. Heck, Annihilation. Jeez, and that used a lot of CGI.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Still one of the most disturbing films. It's just a great film. And again, a great use of it.
Not that they didn't use, I don't know what was used for the angels. I don't suspect, for the angels that turn into the skeleton at the end of Raiders. Spoiler zone. But, I was just thinking this morning
the technology wasn't there in 1980.
Yeah, so zoetrope or whatever the hell they used. But,
I
just sort of the paper mache Alfred Molina on the, on the spikes and stuff. Yeah. It didn't look exactly like him, but it didn't detract from it at all. But I think you're right in the sense that if the story is there, you can overlook, or just you can just accept anything.
You're caught into it.
Yeah,
you're on the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And all of film is what is the minimum we have to do to sell it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't noticed, I do not live in a bar. This ain't real.
What?
But it is good enough that it sells. It sells enough. It looks real enough, Mm-hmm. And it's all done with my computer versus great practical effects. There's YouTubers out there do a great job building their own sets, and it does. It has a nice vibe to it, a warmth that you can't,
Whereas my is all organic. It's an actual messy study.
Yes, it is.
With various Easter eggs, like Margaret Atwood's signature on this poster, a Canadian flag, my Jaws cup, a hammer,
all your memorabilia.
When I get really mad at movies.
Vlad, I'm assuming he's referring to the what? You don't live in a bar?
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry to disappoint, Walt. But coming back to the meaning though, I don't know what else I can add to that. Like, in some ways, you don't have to tease it out. This isn't David Mamet, it's not Glengarry Glen Ross, where you're like, okay, what is he really saying about the American dream? Yeah. Or is it about the character? It's not actually that complicated.
Did the sort of motley crew of mismatched citizen soldiers, did that sort of, I was just thinking back to this past year, January 6th, and although it's not about that, I was wondering, this is the it's almost like a cosplay for those kinds of people that are attracted to like wielding a gun on downtown streets and things like that. Like, do you think there was a little bit of fetishization of that in this?
No, you know what? That's a great question, Jim. My initial reaction is no. I actually think it's going back to the pro-military thing of this is what would happen if you just gave citizens guns and said, get ready to jump into the combat zone.
Yeah.
Although it is interesting, you look at the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, a number of reasons the Somoza government collapsed and, the Sandinistas, like an insurgency was successful, but that was a lot of peasants, men and women, like citizens who became soldiers, but there's still training involved and everything. Yeah, I think, I don't think it was a fantasy for the prepper militia type.
Yeah. I didn't ask that assuming the question, that my asking that wasn't like, but that was something.
It was a great question.
Does it, is it sort of like that kind of scene? Does it inspire people to like, oh, that's cool,
I think because it's all the veterans are the ones who are most successful. The one citizen who does survive, like of the motley crew, was the guy who, the coward who hid.
The smart scientist.
The smart scientist. Yeah. Well, yeah, the rational one who did was, I'm going to go hide, do my time. It's only a week. Hide. So what if I go home hungry? I'm carrying some extra. I'll be fine.
He was actually quite good. I mean, that had the potential of being an irritating role, but I thought he was quite good.
I think if they given everyone a little bit more room, maybe cut a few things like, it's, you know what, Walt, you know what, if you're looking for a laugh and you need to kill some time, I'm going to go back to my recommend, which is, kill some time and look at it, but look at it ironically. It will reward the ironic view.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
What anything else is there really, like, for myself? That's a great question, Jim. I'm like, and my answer is only as I think of it. It's I don't. Mm-hmm. I mean, in some ways I not necessarily that's the message, but it certainly wasn't a any idiot can carry a gun. And I mean, the two who die, Cowan and Raj.
Nora's the character.
Thank you. Thank you. Those who die, maybe they had a bit of that because they're also like
screaming into as you're shooting your final shots off. And
well, and they actually, it was interesting. Those characters, if they were going to die, should have died much later because they were developing them for us.
Yeah.
We saw them in too much. Like, they really should have had a great moment at the end of the second act. Mm-hmm. Damn it. Oh, well. Anything else before we, maybe it might be time to talk about next week's movie.
Oh, yes.
All right. Just a second here, my friend. But is there anything else you wanted to add as far as the meaning goes? I think we've raked that ground quite well, but
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't a terribly deep movie, so I think we probably we probably got to all those angles.
All right. Well then, let us. Why don't you tell us? Yeah, Jim, tell us. Oh, we'll answer that question in a second, Walt. Tell us, Jim, what we'll be watching next week.
Well, unless it's changed, I actually just took a look at it, I think, yesterday, our little schedule there. We are planning on watching the next installment in the MCU, Black Widow. So, with Scarlett Johansson. And who else is in it? Florence Pugh and Rachel Weisz and all kinds of great.
What's Buddy's name? He's in Stranger
David Harbour.
Things. Thank you, David Harbour.
Who I once had a very quick Twitter conversation with. He was actually pretty charming.
Oh, really?
Fun, yeah. So
give us your star anecdote.
Oh, I just said, who was it now? I think Patton Oswalt said something like, how good is David Harbour in what's it called?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. I always forget the name for some reason. How good is David Harbour as Sheriff Jim in Stranger Things? And I said, as a comment, one of 100 comments, but I guess I got in early. I said, he sort of reminds me of David Morse in that he's sort of a character actor who usually plays kind of douchey characters, but he's actually given the chance to be heroic, and it's kind of surprising. And then he chimed in, he goes, David Morse, well, thanks for that. I love that guy. And we sort of went back and forth a little bit. And
well, that's fun.
And yeah. So it was kind of it's the fun of Twitter. This is a few years ago now, but occasionally you'll get a nice little exchange. Nothing too deep, but just worth the save, worth the screen capture. So.
Walt says, Scarlett, so long since Lost in Translation.
How am I bending here?
But wow, in Jojo Rabbit.
Oh yeah.
You're like, come on, like that. I can't believe the first time I saw her was in Cool World.
Ghost World.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It seems like she started pretty young, but it was about.
Yeah, she was. I think she was in her teens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she was 20 yet.
Yeah.
And here, Jojo Rabbit, just again.
Yeah.
Yes, Walt. Jim might be wearing a jersey of some sort. Jim, why don't you show it off one more time?
I was trying to. How do I get close into here? There's my.
Look at that.
I think it says "Go Sports" in Ukrainian. I'm not sure, but no, it says Ukraine.
Yay, ball!
Yeah. It's the Ukrainian participation shirts. Every kid got one.
Everybody gets a T-shirt.
Yeah.
All right, let's. Mr. McKay, Adam McKay, the director.
Mm-hmm.
Pass or fail?
Oh, it's a bit of a mess. I'd say, I'd say fail. Maybe it'll make trillions of dollars for Amazon. I don't know, but I don't think it was particularly well directed. Enjoyable enough, as a throwaway summer movie, but
yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you, Jim. Even though I might give it a slight worth your time, like it's not awful on a streaming service. And the first time you watch it can be really fun. There is 20 solid minutes of action.
Yeah.
That just from 35 minutes to 54 minutes is like, wow, this is like it's well done. It's the other hour and 19 minutes. Okay, let's write off the credits. So hour and 10 minutes. That's like, oh my God, are we ever getting out of here?
Yeah. Trapped in a time loop ourselves.
Exactly. What about more than an hour and 10 minutes? It'd be an hour and a half. Oh dear Lord. Yeah, an hour and a half of oh dear Lord and 20 minutes of awesome action. Yeah, I agree with you. It's got to be a fail. I mean, mind you, we always give a grain of salt. How much did the studio get involved? Heck, how much did Chris Pratt get involved? He's kind of a right-wing guy. Keeps his politics a little closer to the vest. He's not what's her name? No longer in that Star Wars show. Used to be a fighter, UFC type.
Oh,
whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we all know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be a fail. It sucks that it sometimes lies on the guy who might have the least control because it's a big studio picture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, he is the director. This is when he gets to say a film by.
Yeah. So I'm just looking up. Cara Dune is the character, and she is played by Gina Carano.
Thank you. Yeah.
Get our get our memories working here. There's a great SNL fake ad. It's a sort of a parent translator, and it's the mom saying, I really like that actor Joe Geronimo, and you speak into the translator, and it goes Jake Gyllenhaal.
Well, I mean, in her defense, Jim, unlike a lot of younger people who can remember things like that, great problem solvers, but their memory comes quick because there's barely anything in the brain. It's not a big filing problem. They've got 3 or 4 things on the floor there, and it's this one, isn't it? Whereas you and I, there's files and sub-files. We got to go to the index. If we didn't put it back in the file the way we should have, who knows if we'll ever remember that again. It's in there, but it's going to pop out at the most ridiculous time 8 weeks from now, because it wasn't filed properly.
Or you wake up at 3 a.m. and go, ah!
I'm not... Now, maybe help me out. Either Walt may be facetious here, but maybe he isn't. He says, loved her in that creepy alien movie filmed in Scotland.
That's Scarlett Johansson, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. Where she...
That sort of it was realism.
That was so good and so disturbing and in some ways so wrong. Now I'm going to look it up.
Sure. And while Rob's doing that, Vlad also says, what is terrifying is the director is linked to the long-awaited Johnny Quest project, which I didn't actually know was a thing, but I remember watching the cartoon as a kid. So
the film that he was referring to is Under the Skin.
Yes, that's the name.
Yeah. Johnny Quest. Mm-hmm. I believe I bought. Remember, you used to get those Scholastic books.
Yep,
Jim, but I also collected Hardy Boys. Mm-hmm. Got them at the Kmart. Those books were always the thing that I could get a parent to buy. It was never, a ton of grief over a nickel or a quarter candy, but, you want a book? Sure. Automatic. Yeah. But I think they also came, you remember the hardcovers that Hardy Boys would come in? Same idea for this Johnny Quest. And I'll have to do a show and tell one time. Anyway, so wrong. I will have to explain that to you, Vlad, in the parking lot, as they say, as the corporate speak says, offline. Final thoughts, Jim.
Again, I think, and I see this more and more, and it's not a thesis, it's not a scientific thesis, but a lot of times I sort of wonder what effect that video games are playing on movies. And when I was watching this, the way I opened up, I said, it was the best video game that I watched somebody else play all weekend. If you remember as a kid, it used to actually be a thing that you would go and watch somebody play something in the arcade if you didn't have the cash yourself. And so this sort of felt like that. There was the color-coded challenges, and then a lot of side quests, a lot of you have to go to Tower 1 to get the helicopter. Oh, no, it's down. You have to go to Tower 2, and a lot of these kind of...
And now we got to go... We're going through the engine room, although it didn't look like an engine room. Who puts the engine on the top of the building? And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even the whole... Once, when they initially got down to Miami, they said, we have an R&D thing in the next building. And they showed a map, and they said, you're here. You have to go down here and to that. And they didn't show...
Just have little blinking things. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, and they didn't show the team's progress. Well, they showed them in the street a little bit, but then all of a sudden they were in the building. So so it was this kind of... I felt that it was very video game inspired. I also wanted to bring up that weird science montage when they were working at getting the virus together, and it looked like it was stock video, and then they showed images of beakers and a thing that actually said DNA. And do you remember? It was about a minute stretch, and I just thought, where is this coming from? And it was this super unconvincing montage.
Back to that budget craft You know,
Yeah.
where you're like, and yeah, it may have been stock footage, or kind of like those insert shots. Like somebody said, we need a minute of, I don't know, beakers and stuff.
Yeah,
Where's the Bunsen burner? Why does this not have a Bunsen burner?
Or one of those World Police montage songs, like "Going in train because it makes us better," and that kind of. If you remember that, but, yeah. Yeah, so that's. I mean, just it felt like a big video game. There were parts of it that were interesting and kind of fun in a summertime way. Again, like the Army of what was it? Army of Darkness? Was that what it's called? The Vegas one.
Oh, Army of
the Dead. Sorry, Army of the Dead. Yeah, very drive-in-y, like a very drive-in kind of movie.
It's funny you mentioned that one, because even that's a better movie than this.
Yes, yeah.
It holds up much better. If they would put them side by side, if we watched them one after another, it would be like Zack Snyder looks better compared to this film.
Yeah. About the same amount of slow motion. Although my neighbor mentioned to me that the Army of Dead, apparently, because he knows I'm a bit of a birder, he said somewhere in the movie there's a loon call and there's no loons in Las Vegas. Anyway, so apparently that came up somehow. But
we'll have to ask DMG about that. Maybe there is a loon somewhere, or in one of their menageries or something. Yes. For myself, it was funny. I had a bad feeling about this film when I saw a couple of the trailers where I'm like, this is concerning. Even though you read, it's like it was going to be a feature. It was going to be released on the big screen. And then you see the trailers and you're still not knowing what's going on. You don't get why did they have to go into the future? Why do they have to come back? Why? And honestly, that's one of those things where it's like, why wasn't there some kind of weird, border set up so that it would make sense? Like, because of this technology and it can only do 35 years or I don't know, come up with some BS. An explainable and defendable BS throughout the film. I had that feeling. And then all of a sudden, when it first came out, a number of reviews were super positive. And I'm like, I'm kind of excited about this. I'm not one of the 2 a.m. types watching it when it was first released. I watched it that night and I'm going, well, that 20 minutes. And like you said, some others didn't, but I watched it all the way through and I had a decent time and there was that solid 20 minutes. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, oh, wait a second. Oh, this is not going to look good on the second viewing. I'll wait when I feel like a laugh. Yeah.
It's not like lasagna is better on the second day or what have you.
This is
kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, this is not a great stew that gets more into its flavors. This isn't, whether it be Blade Runner or the Raiders of the Lost Ark, but let's say Blade Runner, where it rewards multiple viewings. This is not it. You will not be rewarded. You know what? Great question, Walt. DMG actually was kind enough to do a pre-record with me a video I was unable to show anyone. And I'll probably have to edit it out of film because it just looks terrible. But maybe we'll throw it up. But yeah, he's got July 4th of July, I should say, How Canadian of us, say.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, he's got 4th of July plans tonight because, of course, it's 4th of July, big holiday weekend down in the United States of America. And so, but he was kind enough to help us out with that. And it's too bad I couldn't share it with you guys. It just picks my you-know-what. Anyway, on that note...
Are you going to repost it or try to, I think?
I think what I might do is either sometime this week. That's a great question, Jim. Either sometime this week, I will post it separately, or I'll address the technical issues and we'll just play it next week.
Okay, sure.
One or the other. Some of it... will feel a little dated. I'll talk to DMG too, see how he wants to play it. Maybe he'll come on the show. Maybe he can come on the show live with a bit of an update or something. I would love to. And folks, his full video actually is linked in the description. Go watch his 10 movies looking forward to, and I'll talk to him and we'll see. Maybe we just have him back live next week and do it properly.
Sounds good. Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer because I got it down to a nice tight 15 minutes on what was, because it's me and Brian, was a 40-minute conversation with many sidebars.
It's always the best.
Yeah. I'm becoming a little more ruthless in my editing. We don't need to hear that. All right. Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add, Jim? Before I think we're wrapping up here.
Yeah.
And we're coming in well under the movie's runtime.
Yeah,
which
first time ever, I think.
Makes us look pretty good,
Yes.
especially compared to this film.
We know how to edit. I don't know.
we know how to pull back and focus, refocus ourselves. All right. Well,
just looking at my notes, but I think we got most of it here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we first of all let's just for folks again next week we are looking at what was that movie again? Oh, right.
Black Widow.
Coming out on Friday in the United States, of course, in theaters and Disney Plus. Here in Canada, if the theaters are open, you're going to get to see it in the theater. Otherwise, Disney Plus. And keep everyone up to date on that. So we're doing that, and that of course is here. 9:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, which would be 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. Will be 11. No, 11:30. What would it be? 11:30. It'd be midnight, Newfoundland.
Yes. 2.5 hours.
I think. Yeah. All right. So come back for next week. We'll be talking about Scarlett Johansson's finally her solo MCU film, Black Widow. And I think that's about it. Everybody, Vlad 65. Walt, thank you so much for joining us. Also, Richard L. and Katie, thank you both for popping in.
Yes.
Also saw Ahmed Jelly Duck.
Yes.
Thanks for dropping by. And of course, BD, Beaver Does Productions. And thank you very much for popping in. Thank you all for coming by. We really appreciate that. And I think it's about time let's take the chat off, and I'm gonna take over the screen, Jim. I'm gonna send you to the green room.
See you, folks.
And I'm going to bring down the music, everybody. I am going to